Hollywood is a town built on heroes and villains, but sometimes the biggest battles aren't on screen. The DC Extended Universe became a fascinating social experiment, a place where on-set antics, public perception, and studio politics created their own cast of beloved saints and despised sinners. This is the story of the actors who flew, and the ones who crashed and burned. Jared Leto. Jared Leto's preparation to play the Joker in Suicide Squad has become a legendary cautionary tale, a masterclass in how to alienate every single person you work with for absolutely no reason. It wasn't enough to simply find the character's voice. Leto decided he needed to become a full-time menace, subjecting his co-stars to a series of bizarre gifts that felt more like a cry for help than a creative process. He sent Margot Robbie a live rat in a black box, presented the entire cast with a dead hog, and reportedly mailed out other oddities like bullets, anal beads, and even used condoms. It was a calculated campaign of chaos designed to keep everyone on their toes. His co-stars were forced to navigate this strange on-set environment with a strained patience. Will Smith famously stated he never actually met Jared Leto, only the Joker. Viola Davis was less diplomatic, admitting that while she was initially intrigued, a part of her was also ready to grab her pepper spray. Leto's justification was that it was all about creating an element of surprise and breaking down barriers. The only barrier he successfully broke down was the one between professionalism and being profoundly obnoxious. The real punchline to this elaborate headline-grabbing performance, it was a complete and utter waste of time. The studio's marketing department loved the stories of his on-set antics, as it built a mythos around his supposedly terrifying performance. But when the movie finally came out, Leto's Joker was in it for less than 10 minutes. His role was butchered into a handful of scenes that made him feel more like a flashy afterthought than a genuine threat. All that psychological torment he inflicted on the cast was for a performance that was not only brief, but was also widely panned by critics and fans as one of the worst interpretations of the character ever. He tried to be a chaotic force of nature, but ended up as just a bad joke. Jason Momoa. From an actor who tried way too hard to be cool, we move to one who seems to radiate it without any effort at all. When Jason Momoa was cast as Aquaman, people scoffed. This was the guy who talks to fish, the perennial joke of the Justice League. But Momoa's sheer, unadulterated charisma transformed the character from a punchline into a billion-dollar powerhouse. He brought a surfer's swagger and a rock star's energy to the role, making Atlantis feel less like a silly undersea kingdom and more like the world's coolest heavy metal concert. In a candid interview, he even confessed he was absolutely baffled by how well the film performed, a testament to his humble and grounded nature. What makes Momoa so universally loved is that his on-screen persona feels completely authentic. He's a passionate environmentalist, a dedicated family man, and a legitimate fan of the worlds he helps create. He was one of the most vocal champions of the Snyder Cut, not for his own ego, but because he genuinely believed in his director's vision and fought for it to be seen. He carries himself with a laid-back confidence that makes him feel more like the cool guy you'd meet at a bar than an untouchable Hollywood star. Even as the old DCEU was crumbling, Momoa was already campaigning for his next role, texting James Gunn about his dream of playing the over-the-top anti-hero Lobo. He's not just an actor playing a part, he's a fan living the dream, and that infectious enthusiasm makes it impossible not to root for him. In a universe drowning in drama, Momoa was the unsinkable king of good vibes, Gal Gadot. But while Momoa seemed to walk on water, the DCEU's other certified icon found herself slowly sinking. When Gal Gadot first wielded the lasso of truth in 2017, it was a cultural phenomenon. Wonder Woman was a triumph, and Gadot became an overnight icon of strength and grace. She was, for a brief, shining moment, the undisputed heart of the DCEU. But the magic began to fade with the sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, a film so bafflingly bad it retroactively made the first one seem like a fluke. Critics trashed the movie for being smug and tone-deaf, and her performance, once seen as charmingly earnest, was now labeled wooden. The real damage, however, happened off-screen, where her public persona began to unravel. Her infamous, star-studded Imagine video, released during the early days of the pandemic, was a masterclass in tone-deaf celebrity narcissism that was widely branded as cringy. While the world was panicking, a group of millionaires sang about having no possessions from inside their mansions. It was a PR wound she never truly recovered from. This was compounded by her outspoken and controversial support for Israel, which ignited fresh backlash in 2021. The inspiring hero began to look like just another out-of-touch celebrity, and her once bright star slowly but surely fell back to earth. Her eventual, quiet departure from the role as the DCEU rebooted felt less like a tragedy and more like a long overdue curtain call. John Cena. While a beloved hero was losing her footing, a C-list villain was quietly becoming the franchise's biggest champion. No one expected anything from Peacemaker. He was a joke character, a guy with a toilet bowl on his head who loves peace so much he'll kill for it. Then John Cena, the former pro wrestler, stepped into the role and did the impossible. He gave him a soul. Cena played the character with a perfect blend of meat-headed bravado and heartbreaking vulnerability, turning a walking punchline into a tragic, broken, and surprisingly complex figure. His HBO Max series was a revelation, a show that was simultaneously gut-bustingly funny and profoundly sad, earning a stunning 93% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. He completely understood the assignment, finding the wounded little boy underneath the violent mercenary. On top of his on-screen success, he's known for being one of the most genuinely kind and humble people in the industry, holding the world record for the most Make-A-Wish grants. It's this combination of talent and decency that made him indispensable. As James Gunn began cleaning house for his new DCU, booting established A-listers left and right, Cena's Peacemaker was one of the very few characters confirmed to be making the jump. That's the ultimate vote of confidence. Now, with the second season of Peacemaker streaming on HBO Max, fans are hooked all over again, praising the show's even deeper dive into trauma, redemption, and explosive eagle-hugging action. He took a character no one cared about and made him the undeniable, bulletproof heart of the new DC universe. Amber Heard. Sometimes, an actor's personal life becomes so toxic it creates a black hole that sucks in everything around it, including a multi-million-dollar film franchise. Amber Heard's role as Mara became completely secondary to the explosive drama of her legal battles with ex-husband Johnny Depp. The courtroom saga, and particularly the leaked audio recordings where she admitted to hitting him, turned public opinion against her with a vengeance. She wasn't just a controversial figure. For millions, she became a villain. This put Warner Brothers in an impossible position. Recasting her would mean expensive reshoots and admitting defeat, but keeping her felt like endorsing a public pariah. They chose a clumsy middle ground, drastically cutting her screen time in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and hoping no one would notice. But everyone noticed. Her presence in the film was awkward and jarring, a constant reminder of the ugly, real-world headlines. The controversy completely eclipsed her performance, proving that sometimes, no amount of movie magic can fix a shattered public image. Henry Cavill. In a universe full of controversy, Henry Cavill was the opposite, a source of unwavering stability and grace. He embodied Superman with a quiet dignity that often felt more heroic than the scripts he was given. He was the perfect physical specimen for the role, but he also captured the character's inherent sadness, the burden of being a god trying to live among mortals. For a decade, he was the face of the franchise, handling chaotic productions and confusing studio directives with stoic professionalism. His reward for this dedication was one of the most publicly humiliating dismissals in recent memory. After being paraded out for a cameo in Black Adam and announcing his official return, the new studio heads unceremoniously fired him just weeks later. But Cavill's classy, heartfelt response to the news only deepened the fans' love for him. He never complained or lashed out. He simply thanked everyone for the opportunity and wished them well. He's a true geek who loves the culture, and that authenticity makes him feel like one of us. In the end, the studio may have rejected him, but the court of public opinion crowned him the one true Superman, Ezra Miller. But for every underdog who earns their place through hard work and decency, there's a supernova of self-destruction who burns so brightly they threaten to take the entire universe down with them. Ezra Miller's tenure as the Flash will be studied for years as a case study in how to completely self-destruct. The red flags began with a disturbing 2020 video showing them choking a woman in Iceland. What seemed like a bizarre, isolated incident was actually the prelude to a terrifying and sustained spiral into chaos. By 2022, Miller was racking up arrests in Hawaii like they were souvenirs, including one for disorderly conduct at a karaoke bar and another for assault after allegedly throwing a chair and injuring a woman. The headlines grew darker and stranger. Serious accusations of grooming and manipulation surfaced from multiple families, most notably the parents of activist Tokata Iron Eyes, who claimed Miller had an unhealthy, controlling influence over their child. Then came the reports from Miller's Vermont farm. which was described as a chaotic arsenal where they were housing a young mother and her children in an unsafe environment, surrounded by firearms. Miller began referring to themselves with messianic language, creating a cult-like atmosphere of paranoia and delusion. All the while, Warner Brothers was sitting on a $200 million blockbuster, paralyzed. Their strategy of complete silence backfired spectacularly, creating an information vacuum filled with the most damning speculation imaginable. By the time The Flash was released, the film was DOA, poisoned by the actions of its star. It wasn't just a flop, it was a memorial to a career that had run so fast it went straight off a cliff.